Hello and welcome to another edition of the Chartered Career Chat series. Delighted today to have David McCurry join us. David, thank you so much for joining.
Delighted to be here. Thanks for having me, Sinead. How are you?
No problem at all. Well, I am interested to hear a bit about your chartered career story. I know a bit about it because obviously we know each other, but for the benefit of someone tuning in, would you give us a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the chartered career story to date?
Sure. So I started at Queen's University, did an accounting degree there, and then I went on to the University of Ulster and did the Post Grad Diploma there. That gave me my exemptions for my Cap 1 and Cap 2 exams before really going the traditional route and joined BDO Belfast here in their audit department for the rest of my training contract, get my experience, get over my FAEs and really get a foundation in accounting and being able to see businesses and what makes them tick. Coming towards the end of that, they then put me out in secondment to Chicago Mercantile Exchange, their EMEA office, which is also here in Belfast. There I was a senior accountant for just under 2 years, being as their point of contact for the auditors, being on the flip side of things, and also helping them with the conversion to FRS 102. Coming towards the end of that, I so realised I'd been in Ireland this whole time. I wanted to stretch my legs and see a bit more of the world. I had some friends in Toronto I had visited before, so I moved out there and very fortunately was able to get a job fairly quickly with Tricon Capital, again senior accountant for them over two of their operating segments. They had chartered accountants in there before, so they knew exactly the type of person they were getting. They were very happy to bring me on board. And I did a year with them before coming back home. And very fortunately, great timing, Allstate Insurance Group were just setting up here their accounting function. They've been in Northern Ireland for maybe 20 years, I think. It was their anniversary this year for 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. But the accounting function is fairly new. I came in just at the forefront of that. Myself and another guy were the first two guys in the door, actually. Now a manager within that corporate accounting piece on the expense team with a focus on fixed assets, leases, software, and real estate, all of that stuff.
Amazing. Oh, so great variation in your experience to date. Do you mind if I rewind even a wee bit further? Did you always know you wanted to be an accountant? Do you know at what point was it in school? Did you think, right, I'm definitely going to do an accounting degree? What got you on that track?
I think like a lot of kids back then, my dream was probably be a footballer. That's what kept me up at night. Very thankfully, actually, throughout my whole career, being able to keep the football on, being able to manage my time to build that in, which has been great. But in my school, they were very good about their career classes, and they always put aside a week for going out to offices for a bit of work experience. So I actually went out to an architecture's accountant's office. I remember feeling the architecture just wasn't me. I had these grand ideas, maybe of towers in Dubai, but it just wasn't me. Whereas the accountancy practice was a small practice, a few people, and it was actually good crack. I felt I could do it, and I thought this is what I should be doing. It also just aligned with the subjects I was doing. I was doing maths, business studies, economics, and art actually. But the first three anyway, I had followed what I was good at, and it just sort of made sense. So that's what made me choose the accounting degree, yeah, and just continued on that path.
Amazing. I didn't know you did art, so I love when I hear, sort of the mix of subjects. Like I did home economics, Irish, and ICT,
Yeah.
and I think people think, well, you have to have done maths, but that's not the case. It's much more than just the numbers and the crunching and the bean counting, as they say. Actually, would you give me a bit of a feel, if you don't mind, as to the type of work, chartered accountants do? You've had great experience. Would you just tell me a wee bit about the type of work you've got up to?
So I suppose recently being in Allstate, being a US company, it's a global company. There's a lot of reporting on that on a couple of sides. US GAAP, IFRS was the very local side of things, but US GAAP for the group consolidation, that sort of reporting. We also, because it's an insurance company, we have to do quarterly filings by state on insurance we provide and a rundown of all those insurance lines, things like that. So yes, a lot of reporting, a lot of analytics. We also will do monthly expense packages, really digging in and to the data and deciphering what's going on. That's probably the main thing, is those type of queries that you'll get from different departments and divisions when they have their budget. What's actually going on? Why is this up? Why is this down? There's also a lot of implementation, like accounting standards change every year pretty much, so there's a lot of basically mathematical puzzles and problem solving of, I have this input, but how do I get it to align with the accounting standard and that sort of thing. Um, yeah, that's probably the main things, that deciphering the problem solving piece.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of things within software. It's probably the biggest thing, that one of the biggest things I did last year was we had a big agreement with IBM, was like 75 million, and breaking that into its component parts and how to account for all those things and being able to map it out for the technology team so they could see exactly what's going to happen over the next 3 years. So they could properly budget and plan for what's going to happen in their world, really. It's those type of things, those conversations then as well. I think the main thing for me over the years that I found is the soft skills have really come to the forefront, and that communication piece, as well as being able to dig into the data. You need to be able to tell the story of what's went on, and then in a way that non-financial people will be able to digest that and get on board with how things are going. A little bit of maybe influencing people too, where you might be able to see where things are going, but it's just getting on board with, this is how it's going to happen, from your deciphering of that data.
Fantastic. It's very much then a partnership to the business. You know, the accountant role. You've touched on some of the skills there that obviously are needed to be a chartered accountant. Is there any others that come to mind? You know, is communication and those soft skills, as well as the technical skills, all equally as important?
Oh, definitely. If not more so now. I think as the world's moving forward, technology is getting better. We're moving towards or looking at more ANI being involved in accounting and taking some of that posting roles. So it's allowing us and freeing up our time to be more analytical and have more input with leadership and what's going on and how they look at the future. But if I had to pick out a few, other than say communication is obviously is so important, leadership obviously it's a big on everyone is a leader, and you can lead from your seat, and it's from how obviously you conduct yourself, but also how you help others, being able to bring others on, developing each other, and doing things the right way. I always love the tagline actually, Chartered Accountants Ireland, that they're creating the future leaders,
Yeah.
future business leaders, not just that they're creating accountants, because this all comes together in this package that'll make a business more efficient, make sure there's no not mistakes, but no surprises down the road on what's going to happen. Resilience, I think, is a big thing. So when you're in practice, when you're doing your training contract, there's so much going on. Maybe myself, I was in audit. Every day is different. You're going between different businesses. You need to be able to cope with that. But now in industry, when I'm coming in, I maybe have a better idea of my deadlines, month to month, quarter to quarter, and that sort of thing. But I could have a list of my to-do list for the day, open my emails, and just put that out the window sometimes, because you'll get queries, things that need done. Yeah, things just need to change around. Resilience is a big one. Communication, time management was big for me as well. Also trying to keep on my football the whole way through, which has been great. We've been a bit successful. That was been great. That was a hard one, and it does take time to work at. But also through your exams, you sort of build that skill in, because you need to work out how, as you're working, how to work out time to go through the chapters, through the exams, through the examples, and build that in. So bit by bit, these things all come to the forefront throughout your studies and really built into the person you're going to be later on.
Brilliant. Do you think, I suppose, reflecting on your own journey, David, that the qualification has had an impact on your own career progression and all that great variation of experience that you picked up?
Very much so. I say accounting and probably football as well have really formed who I am as a person now today. I wouldn't be the person I am really without these things, without these skills building me, this development. Also, the career itself, or the qualification itself, has been a passport for me. I would say it's allowed me to travel and will travel with you. I saw that when I went to Toronto, where different companies were very, very happy to talk to me, and where I did work were happy to bring me on, because they knew the quality of the qualification because of those who had come before me. And also with Allstate now, I think I've been over something like 8 times. I was working on a project to implement the new leasing standard, came live in January 1st, 2019. So I've been back and forth between year end and quarter ends and working on that and meeting with teams over there. It's maybe a bit easier now with Zoom and with Teams and technology in general, but there's a lot to be said with those face-to-face meetings, and especially when it came to quarterly reporting for PLC, being on the ground with people. But yeah, it's definitely brought me to where I am today, and I wouldn't change it.
It's great to see you've used the qualification internationally. You know, it's something we talk about, that global passport piece, and obviously you've worked in Canada and now you're back and forth to Chicago then. Has anything surprised you about the qualification or even the profession?
I think probably the networking and the soft skills and how important they are, really. I know there's those myths about bean crunchers and being in a room with the visor and the big calculators crunching and stuff like that. But really, we're doing things like this. We're presenting to a room. We're trying to help people as develop themselves. We're presenting to boards, to management. We're creating packages and trying to tell the story of the numbers in a business, that sort of thing. I suppose as well, when I was going through my exams, the student society, and you really do create a very tightly knit network throughout all that stays with you. I remember the weekends away and all that sort of stuff that goes on. And
We're good fun, David.
yeah, not bad, not a bad lot. Like it was probably that piece. And I when I go into different breakfast mornings and things like that put on by Chartered Accountants, you get to see all these people and catch up with them and see how everyone's doing. It is a great networking tool as well. Yeah.
Brilliant. I know, I think that does surprise a lot of folk, just how well connected we are and how personable and how relationships are really at the forefront. We're a really tight-knit community, which is great, and having the Ulster Society obviously on our doorstep in Belfast,
Yeah.
and all around, I suppose, the island. There are local, I suppose, chapters and, you know, societies for our members to get involved with. And
Yeah,
you know,
they're opening those up
massively visible.
internationally as well now. I've seen that as my work with the Strategic Communications Committee, that there is the Toronto chapter now, which wasn't actually there when I was there.
Yeah.
I think San Francisco as well. They may have been looking at Dubai. There's the London chapter. I know you've had Peter on as well, who was the
Yeah.
president of that, I'm pretty sure. And then Australia, there's a couple due to the size of it. New Zealand,
Singapore as well, I think we have.
Singapore. Yeah,
Yeah,
so like
very
we're
much
branching
international.
out. Although technology can keep us all in touch with each other, yeah, we're branching out of those society pieces as well, which is great. Great support.
Absolutely. Well, look, in summing up, David, I'd be interested to know, you know, if somebody was at the stage of considering this profession as a career path, what might you say to them? Would you recommend it?
I would definitely recommend it, just sitting here where I am now and be able to look back. And I think that's good for people to do as well. Every now and again, just take a wee look back on where you are and what you've been able to do. Without this degree or this qualification, I don't know how I would have fared in Toronto. If it would have been so easy, I wouldn't be on the back and forth to Chicago. I wouldn't be talking to you right now. It's given me a lot and allowed me to give back as well. It's in the institute helping with the communication committee, or as with our staff in Belfast here now, going through the education and going through Chartered Accountants Ireland and being able to help them develop and go through the exam. I would say if you want a qualification that will allow you to travel and will travel with you, it's definitely for you. And if you're interested in businesses and what makes them tick and being able to decipher data and the numbers to be able to see what the story is actually saying, then it's for you as well.
Brilliant. All about that problem solving and decision making and critical thinking, much more than just the calculator or the spreadsheet, as I think you've rightly described. David, thank you so much for that. It's been brilliant to hear your story, and we really appreciate you sharing it today. So thanks again. Really appreciate your time.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me, Sinead. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks a million. Talk to you
Bye.
soon. Thanks now. Thanks everyone for tuning in.